We have a special gripe session today because today I'm going to talk about, did Gary Vee really just lose his mind?
It's Gripe Session time with your host, George Wanaka.
It's about nothing.
Discussing everything from real estate, current events, a little bit of everything, and the annoying little things that just tick you off.
You can't handle the truth.
What? You didn't know?
Here's your host, George Wanaka.
Your ass better call somebody.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to a special edition of the Gripe Session. I am your host. My name is George Wanaka. I am a realtor, appraiser, mortgage broker with Wanaka Realtors and Appraisers in Staten Island, New York. I'm also the proprietor of SearchStatenIsland.com, as well as another Facebook Live by that very same name, the Gripe Session. So, be that as it may, I've got YouTube channels, I got Instagram channels, but you guys didn't tune into this today to hear me talk about all my channels. You wanted to hear, what does George think? And here's what's going on. So, last week, Gary Vee, who some of you guys might know that I'm a big, what I call, disciple of Gary Vee, which is Gary Vaynerchuk. And I was turned on to him by a few years ago. A couple of my friends told me I needed to listen to this guy. He's, all new age types of stuff, marketing, et cetera, which I did. And I've read 2 of his books already. I'm actually currently on the 3rd. Actually, excuse me. I read 3 of his books. I'm on the 4th. And the way I do it is I'm Polish, so I read everything reverse. So I read his most recent one, then the one before that, then the one before that. So now I'm on the 4th one. Which was before that. So it's just how I roll. But anyway, I digress. So Gary came out with a statement last week that a lot of people have already jumped on, and this is my first opportunity to talk about it. But talking about home ownership not being the American dream. And everybody jumped out of, oh my God, can you believe he just said that? And he holds conferences and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And everything boils back into the same conversation for me, which is, did you listen to the context or did you listen to the soundbite? And that's really what it boils down to. I think we as professionals all flipped out because nobody listened to the whole thing. I didn't flip out because as a marketeer, I know the soundbite is what gets people to sometimes listen. At the end of the day, I did listen to his rationale behind the statement, but also understand there are other conferences that people put on. Inman is another one, quite frankly. And I've listened to a lot of sometimes things that go on in Inman and said this is anti-agent, realtor, et cetera, et cetera. And I mean, literally the stuff that's there, some of it was at that time. It's since changed a little bit because I think they did get some blowback. But going back to it, once I listened to some of Gary's perspectives, I disagreed with a few of them for a couple of different reasons. The first one is there was a big misconception, a misaccuracy that was posted or Gary talked about, which I haven't heard any of my colleagues discuss on their podcasts. So I'm going to bring it out on this one. One of the big misconceptions is that everybody nowadays is putting 20% down on homes. That's just completely inaccurate. Now, granted, it could be based off of my area, which is a higher cost area. We have a few, buyers that have the means to put 20% down, but by no means is it the end all, say all, be all. Again, I've not only do I practice real estate, I do mortgages as well. I don't think I've had a 20% down client in a long time, to be perfectly honest with you. It's at least 6 months. Most of my clients that even do have the capabilities to do so are not putting 20% down because the cost of obtaining financing and the fact that the rates are so at historic lows, it makes no sense to put that kind of capital down on a piece of property when you can finance it and obviously in cases write off your mortgage interest deduction, which we as realtors know. But I think I could ask probably a lot of my colleagues in the industry, how many 20% down buyers do you have? Because I don't think it's anywhere near the numbers that made Gary come out with that statement. So that's really kind of the first point that I wanted to make today in regards to that. Obviously, as always, everybody's always entitled to their opinion, but being somebody who practices in this field every day, and this is what I do, how I feed my family, I don't know of that many 20% down buyers. I mean, it's just fact. Everyone would love to put down 20% because you would normally save the private mortgage insurance, or PMI for those that don't know. But in the same breath, there are programs that are currently out there that would allow you to finance your PMI over the course of 30 years, which that's a different discussion where people financing debt over 30 years. But I had a conversation recently with a client of mine, and their statement was, in probably a certain amount of time, I'm going to do a refinance. So even if I finance it over 30 years, it doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to pay for it over 30 years. And I think the law of averages is that most people are going to refinance a few times during the course of owning a home, depending on how long they're going to be there. But we're getting way off topic now. But those are some of the reasons why, at least one of the reasons why, part of what Gary said didn't really annoy me that much, because that to me was just dead wrong. And again, listen, everyone's entitled to their opinion. Everyone would love to put down 20%, but some people just don't have 20%. Does that mean that you can't afford to buy a home? No. Or neither, and I'll take on the flip side of this conversation now. Does that mean that everybody should buy a home? No, it doesn't mean that either. And this is where I will agree with Gary on it. There are some people that shouldn't buy a home at this point for a variety of different reasons. It could have to do with job. It could have to do with not knowing where you want to be in a few years. Do I think that it's one of the best investments people can make? I do. But I don't subscribe to the fact that everybody should be a homeowner, because that's where, from an economy standpoint, where we've gotten into trouble in the past. I think people that are wanting to do that need help and need professionals' help to help guide them along those lines. But I don't necessarily disagree with Gary that not everybody should do that, because it's essentially being dishonest with people, and that's something I'm never going to do. That's first part A of my reaction to that. But let me go a little bit more into part B, where Gary really talked about the reasoning why, as far as taking capital away from people when they want to start businesses or things of that nature. And this is where I disagree with it, and I'm on the other side of counterpoint, if you will, or counterpunch. There are so many businesses nowadays that go out of business, okay? And it's not because they weren't funded capital-wise. It could be that the market for them is changing and they don't know how to evolve. It could be they have sky-high rents. It could be a variety of different reasons, okay? Now, again, in a home, you are going to have some equity if you stay there long enough, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't subscribe to that fact of just holding on to that money and dump it into a business for capital, because you could theoretically be dumping money into a business. It's like flushing it down the toilet. Now, people could say the same thing about real estate. However, again, real estate does come back around again. Businesses sometimes don't. Talk to Blockbuster. How'd that work out? What if you were the one that was dumping money into Blockbuster as your capital and you were staying home with mom? Dump that in. That was your business. And we all know where Blockbuster is today. New technologies emerge. New things happen. Okay, so I don't necessarily subscribe to that as well. I respect Gary's opinion on that. I just have a different opinion of my own. I don't think that you can be completely in one thing. I'm always a guy that believes in being diversified and holding across things. So I think there's definitely a happy medium between my point of view and obviously Gary's point of view. Doesn't mean I'm right. Doesn't mean he's right. Doesn't mean I'm wrong. And it doesn't mean that he's wrong. But as always, you want to have options out there for people that they can make their own decisions and make educated decisions based off of that. I'm in my business 26 years. Gary's been doing what he's been doing for a while. So there's definitely, points of view that are agreeable and that type of stuff. But I wanted more to jump on and do this special edition of the Gripe Session only because of the blowback that I was hearing about it. And I got a bunch of text messages because people know that I listen to Gary all the time. I read his books all the time, and I'm posting a lot of his stuff on Instagram and some of my social medias, and they go, "Oh, look at what your boy said, George. Look at what he said." I'm like, okay, I followed a guy. That just because I follow somebody or I think that some of the stuff that they say makes a lot of sense, that doesn't mean that every word that comes out of their mouth I'm going to, drop to my knees and say, "Gary, you are the best." It doesn't work that way. Okay. So I don't necessarily have to agree with it, and vice versa. Nobody has to agree with what I'm having to say. There's some things that people might agree with, and then there's some things that people may think, "George, you're full of shit, dude. I mean, come on, man. What's going on here?" And again, everybody's entitled to their opinion, but at the end of the day, that's part of what this medium is supposed to be about, is about throwing things out there for people, letting them hear what's going on, and then letting them make an informed decision based off of that. So I want to thank everybody for the reviews of the podcast that have done that so far. Guys and girls have been listening. I do appreciate you. And if you've got any questions that you'd like me to answer on these editions of the Gripe Session, please feel free to send me an email at george@searchstatenisland.com, and I will definitely have one of those questions come on here. So that's it for today. I wanted to jump on real quick, make it a quick edition. We will be coming back with another edition this week. So please hit that subscribe button on iTunes. Same thing on Spotify, Google Play. And hopefully we'll see you guys soon. And again, thank you very much. You guys keep smiling and do something nice for somebody you wouldn't normally do. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the Gripe Session. Please follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram.